everyone, it's Gemma here, and today I just wanted to do a little bit of a quick video review of the book Tarot Interactions by Deborah Lipp. And I have to get this video made because this book has to go back to the library. I've just been reading it over the past week that I've been staying with my mum, and I got it out from her local library. And I haven't read anything by Deborah Lipp previously, however I have heard of her. She has written books such as The Way of Four and Elements of Ritual, and she used to be married to Isaac Bonewits, and I've read some of his work, which is excellent. So I was intrigued by the fact that the book was by her, and yeah, I'm really glad I read it. It's a really interesting and really great book. The subtitle here is Become More Intuitive, Psychic and Skilled at Reading Cards. So it is sort of your more traditional psychic fortune telling style of tarot reading, and she does have an appendix at the back with the tarot, with just brief tarot card meanings, and these are really quite traditional and sort of you know, go with that fortune telling style of reading, and it is good. I'm glad that I read this book because she kind of addresses some of the issues that some people have around the word psychic, myself included. I do have some issues with the use of the word psychic in some ways that it's used. For me, my issue is just the fact that when someone calls themselves a psychic, a lot of the time they're just kind of implying that they have special powers that other people don't have, and they kind of, in a sense, disempower their clients for that reason, because they're saying that they have special knowledge and access to special information that their clients don't have otherwise, and it's kind of, they're kind of promoting reliance on themselves and kind of putting themselves above, so it can be that little bit of an ego-based kind of a word in the way that some people use it. Not everybody uses it in that way. Like, you do get intuitive readers who do really empower their clients and who, you know, don't put themselves above their clients. But it just depends, and I think you've got to be careful of that with some people who use that word. But the way that Deborah Lipp explains it is just that the word psychic means, it just means that you have the ability to access information that you wouldn't have access to any other way through your sixth sense. And it's kind of different to intuition in that way. Intuition is more talking about your ability to access information that kind of is available to you from your other senses, and to just tap into that and to really kind of unveil it and bring it to the surface. So that's how she explains the difference between psychic and intuitive. So I really liked her discussion of that, and I'm really glad that I read it for that reason. Apart from that, she's just got a lot of really good tips for, like, she recommends meditation. She recommends some good books to read on meditation and some tips for getting into meditation, which is really important for tarot reading in general, I think, but especially for that psychic fortune-telling reading where you're trying to tap into information about, you know, what's on people's minds, what's really going on in a situation, and what may happen in the future according to what's happening at the moment and the energies surrounding that you can read in the cards. And with Tarot Interactions, she just helps you kind of put together the different cards in a reading and read it in a way that flows and that tells you a story from what cards you can see. So for example, if you're doing your past, present, future reading, you'll say, okay, so this happened in the past and therefore this is happening now, and then this is what's likely to happen in the future. So you're just kind of stringing your reading together in that way, in that harmonious way. And yeah, so she's got a lot of really great tips in here for that, and just about trusting your intuition and trusting your psychic skills, because she points out that if you don't trust your what the information that you're getting in a reading, that can shut down your psychic skills, because it's kind of like that inner child voice pardon me, I'll just have a drink. The voice of that inner child, you're kind of not listening to it, so it'll just go quiet and then the reading won't flow anymore and it won't work. So I think that's really important to trust what comes through in a reading and to convey that to your client in a loving way, of course, but to always listen to it. So she's got a chapter on interaction with other disciplines. So you've got other types of divination and that kind of thing. She talks about Kabbalah, she talks about path working, which is excellent. I really recommend path working. And working with tarot with dreams, and even herbalism. She touches on people who are interested in herbalism and how that can work in a tarot reading. And then chapter 3 is your interaction with pattern. And there's a little section here which I thought was very interesting called Do the Math, and that's where she talks about how many cards you've got. So you've got 78 cards, and then she talks about the statistical significance of when you get more than a certain amount of court cards, minor arcana, major arcana, and that kind of thing, what's actually statistically significant, and if that comes out in a reading, what that means. So for example, if you do like a 10 card spread and it's all mostly major arcana, that's really statistically significant. So she talks about how to pay attention to that kind of thing and how to notice what's actually significant in a reading in that sense, and I think that that's excellent. That's really, really interesting. And then she talks about patterns in suits, patterns in your court cards and that kind of thing, and yeah, just a lot of really excellent information that's really good to know. She talks about the significance of different numbers in your suit showing up in the reading and what that signifies. So that's just really fantastic. And then chapter 4, you've got interactions with layout and position. So she talks about different spreads, and I really like how she's got a few different spreads here suggested. She's got the Celtic cross spread, which she just really breaks down really, really well, which is great because I personally love the Celtic cross spread. Not everybody does, but I find it really, really useful. And she talks about different ways that you can modify that spread, ways that you can expand upon it. I'll just try and see. Yeah, so she's got some extra cards here that you can use in the Celtic cross spread, and then you can just totally expand on your Celtic cross spread, and she talks about how to do that. So that's really excellent. One spread that I really loved is this Vitruvian Man spread. And when I saw this, I was just like, okay, the universe is talking to me through this book. And I've been having a lot of moments like that lately, but that's a topic for a whole other video. But yeah, this spread's really great, and I really love it. I've done it for myself already. But so you've got the different positions here. You can either use 2 cards in each position, or you can just use 1 card in each position. It's up to you. And so she's got position 1 is the head, and that's where your head is at, so what you're thinking and what's your primary concern. Position 4 to 10 is the left hand. So that's what you've been doing, so that's what actions you've been taking. Position 3 to 9 is your right hand, so what you should be doing. Your left foot is where you stand, so it's basically like a foundation card. And then right foot is where you're going, so that's where you're going onwards from that foundation and that position. And then your center card is interesting. It's what God or Spirit or the gods want you to do. So it's kind of an advice card in that sense, I guess, but it's more than that. It's dealing with the divine and tapping into the divine will and that kind of thing. So that's really good, and I really, really love that spread. She's got a lot of great examples of the spreads, and she just really breaks down how to do it, and provides some really great examples of how she reads in this interactive way, with making the reading flow and stringing the cards together and looking at what different cards together mean and that kind of thing. So I really, really love that. She talks about artwork, paying attention to artwork, and she just has a few different suggestions there with exercises on paying attention to the symbolism and where people are looking in the art and that kind of thing, because sometimes you'll notice in a reading you'll get more than one card they're looking in the same direction, or they'll be looking towards each other and that kind of thing. So you just she touches on what that can represent. So I really, really love that. Interaction with language, so she talks about grammar and the way you word your readings, so that's always really important, and I really, really like that. Interaction with the querent, so she'll talk about what kinds of questions people ask, how to word a question for the tarot, because I think that's where a lot of people have trouble, is how to actually word a question that you're going to ask the tarot in a way that the tarot can answer in a way that it knows how to answer. So, you know, tarot has its own way of talking, and you've got to really ask it in a way that you're going to get the answers that you need. So she'll talk about that. She even talks about tarot games, which I think is interesting. And that's great because, you know, there's more than one way of reading tarot, and I just love it when you read books like this that are written by people who've been studying and working with tarot for years and years and years, and they've just got these new, interesting, kind of innovative ways to work with tarot, and I just love that. I love that innovation and that way of thinking outside the box, and the way that they use tarot, and that they can share that with other people like myself. Like, I wouldn't call myself a total beginner, but I'm still somewhat of a beginner, so I haven't really, like, I do still use tarot in quite a limited way, so it's really good to read books like this that give you new, fresh and interesting ideas. So that was the main thing that I got out of this book, mostly just the fantastic spreads and the way that she breaks down the spreads in a really easy to understand way.